I woke up to a silence so deep it felt like the whole world had stopped. My alarm clock blinked 7 a.m., but there was no usual sound of birds or cars. No hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. Just silence. I got out of bed and walked to the window. My street, usually busy with morning joggers and kids heading to school, was empty. I squinted, hoping to spot someone, anyone. But there was nothing, just abandoned cars and still houses. My heart started pounding. Maybe it was a prank? A very weird and elaborate prank? I grabbed my phone, but there were no new messages or calls. I dialed my friend Sarah's number, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried my parents. Same thing. Panic rose in my chest like a wave. I threw on some clothes and ran outside. The streets were eerily quiet. I walked to Sarah's house first. Her car was in the driveway, but the door was open, and inside was empty. I called out her name, but the echo of my voice was the only reply. My skin prickled with fear. I decided to head to the town square. If anyone was around, they'd be there. But as I walked, I realized that every house I passed was just like Sarah's. Doors left open, no sign of life. It was like everyone had just vanished into thin air. When I reached the square, my hopes crumbled. Not a single soul was in sight. The shops were open, lights on, but nobody was there. I sat down on a bench, trying to calm my racing mind. What the hell was going on? Suddenly, I felt like I was being watched. I turned around, but no one was there. Just that overwhelming silence pressing in on me. I decided to head to the police station. Maybe they knew something. The station was empty too. Desks overturned, papers scattered everywhere, but no people. I picked up a radio, but it crackled with static. Then I noticed something on the wall, a clock. It was counting down. 8 hours left. What does that mean? I muttered to myself, my voice shaking. I remembered an old legend my grandmother used to tell me about our town. She said that once every 100 years, the town would fall asleep, and something would come to take those who didn't leave in time. I always thought it was just a story to scare kids, but now, it didn't seem so crazy. I had until sunset. 8 hours. I ran out of the station and headed home. If I was going to escape, I needed supplies. As I packed a bag with food, water, and a flashlight, I felt that same eerie sensation of being watched. I looked out the window and saw a shadow flickering in the distance. It wasn't human. It was tall, with long, spindly limbs, moving in an unnatural way. My blood ran cold. I grabbed my bag and bolted out the back door. I needed to get to my car. As I ran, I could hear it behind me, its footsteps echoing in the silence. I didn't dare look back. Reaching my car, I fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking. I finally got the door open and jumped inside, locking the doors. The shadowy figure stopped a few feet away, watching me with glowing eyes. I turned the key, and the engine roared to life. I sped out of the driveway and headed for the town's edge. The countdown was ticking in my head. 7 hours left. As I drove, I saw more of those shadow figures. They were everywhere, lurking in the corners, watching from the rooftops. I pressed harder on the gas, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I reached the town's border and crossed it, but something felt wrong. The sky grew darker, and the road ahead twisted in ways it shouldn't. It was like the town was trapping me. Then I remembered the legend's final part: the only way out was through the old forest, the place where the town's boundaries didn't hold. It was risky, but I had no choice. I turned the car towards the forest, the shadow figures growing closer. My headlights barely pierced the thick darkness. I could feel time slipping away. Driving through the forest, the road became rough, and branches scraped against the car. I kept going, even as fear threatened to paralyze me. I couldn't stop now. Not when I was so close. Finally, I saw a glimmer of light through the trees. The edge of the forest. I sped up, the car jolting over the uneven ground. Just as the sun began to set, I burst through the trees and out into the open. I looked back once, seeing the shadow figures melt away as the last rays of sunlight disappeared. I was free. I was safe. But the memory of those empty streets and those watching eyes would haunt me forever.